Hello, hello. How's everybody doing? If you haven't tuned in to these videos in the past, I am intending to continue to make more of these. And these are just videos of me sharing some just really relevant information that comes through from my clients and then also from my higher self, my guides, my higher guidance team. And just my heart, what I feel truly inspired to share with whoever feels called to listen. And the topic that I feel really called to discuss with you today is authenticity and how that relates to programs, basically our inner world, our inner programs. I want to start out with sharing personally my journey, my story around authenticity. Because, that's a great place to start, right? My own story on authenticity. And I mean, this really goes back to basically being born a twin. I mean, even if I go back that far, it has been a theme in my life since I took my first breath, which is, who are you? Who are you? Not based on what anybody else wants you to be, not based on your family's expectations, the body you were born into, all of that, right? If you can even imagine for a split second, some of the things that come up with being a twin, right? And that's a whole nother story, but I wanted to start there. So one of the biggest lessons for me in this lifetime is stepping more into authenticity. And after, I'm just going to fast forward for the sake of time. The very first tattoo that I ever got, and I love tattoos, I've got a few of them. The very first one I got was a tree on my side, and the words on the tree are, "To thine own self be true." And I was inspired to receive that right after I left the Mormon church when I was 26. And again, that's a whole nother story, which I'm happy to go into in another video. But from that moment on is when I knew I was on a completely new trajectory of truly owning my authenticity. And along the way, so it's been about 11 or almost 12 years now. And along the way, I've learned some hard lessons around what authenticity is and what it is not. And some of that has to do with not getting our wounds mixed up with authenticity. What do I mean by that? What I've learned is a lot of times when we're first starting to find who we really are, it's really easy to look outside of ourselves at what we like and what we wish we were, and then go towards that, try and mimic that. Or sometimes it looks like rebelling. Sometimes it looks like going against something because we don't want to be controlled, right? So maybe there's a wound around being controlled. And so we're actually really rebelling against something versus really truly being authentic. So those are just two examples that come to mind of ways that it's not always clear what's authentic. And I just want to really normalize that. It's not always clear what's authentic and what's not authentic. And sometimes we have to just do trial and error before we start to feel kind of our rhythm with it. And I'm by no means saying that I've mastered this, okay? So just putting that out there. But part of it is learning where your soul sings. It's learning how to feel yourself, not think about what it is that is authentic, but what feels authentic to us. So who we are and what we do when no one's watching, right? That's authenticity. And part of my work what I feel very, very called to continue to deepen into is to assist individuals in being able to clear out the clutter that's in the way of naturally coming into their authenticity. Now, the Yothera Method, which is a modality that I've created, takes people through this process of uncluttering all the programs that get in the way of what I call our true innocence, our true nature. And this is not a new concept, obviously, especially if you've done some, psychological work before. I mean, there's many schools of thought that talk about coming into your innocence and finding innocence again. Another word for innocence can be authenticity, like who you really are, your own unique soul signature. And when I think of soul signature, I think of our own personal stamp in the world that nobody else can fill. Nobody, literally nobody. Nobody else can. And that is your unique resonance. And that easily comes through when we're not swayed by what we think we should do, or old wounding, or external influence, or fear. I mean, that's such a huge one, right? Family dynamics. When we have done the work necessary to become aware of these programs, it's just easy because it's who we are. So I did a presentation for the Idaho Counselors Association a couple of weeks ago. And one of the things that I presented on to other therapists was how to basically use more of your intuition and embodiment in your work, in their work with their clients, basically. And part of that conversation was finding your niche. In other words, basically finding your authenticity in your work. And that requires a letting go of how you think you should show up under a certain title or expectation, and how many of us are compartmentalizing ourselves based on these different hats that we're wearing at different points in our life. And we talked about how our niche, or basically our authenticity, naturally happens when we are having fun, when we're in flow, and when it's easy. And that's the key. And there's all these programs around us, and that we've been taught of, we have to work hard and has to be difficult and all of that. It's just not true. It's just not true. And the more I can personally relax and open and ease into this deeper knowing and deeper trusting in my authenticity, in my inner soul signature, and how that's expressed, the easier life is getting, the easier relationships are getting, the easier work is getting. Work doesn't feel like work when I'm in that space. It feels like a remembering. It feels like play. And it's very flowy and it's very open. And there's just more of a childlike innocence to everything. And it's just a matter of opening to that and being willing to let that part of yourself come out. Because in the past, maybe it's been shut down. Maybe it wasn't safe in your family of origin to be open and wild and free and with a big imagination and intuitive and artful and things like that. Maybe it wasn't safe and maybe it was threatening. And so a lot of us learned to shut it down. A lot of us just shut it down. And then more and more cultural conditioning on top of that, here we are as adults and we forgot, but it's still there. And what I feel called to continue to offer is opportunities for individuals to go back to that space, to go back to that innocent space. And where I resonate with it in my body is the high heart. I have always resonated with it there. It's you've got the organ of the heart, but then you have the heart energy center, and right above it is the high heart. It's between the throat and the heart energy center. And this is where I feel that the word that wants to come through is God's spark. It's like a spark of my innate nature that only I have. And as I open that up more, it begins to come up my throat, energetically open my throat, releases my jaw. And then before you know it, there's more of a flow and an opening in how I am expressing myself energetically, with language, all of it. And then you don't have to work so hard to naturally fall into alignment with exactly why you chose to come here, exactly why you're incarnated now. So there is a layer of trusting that you're here for a reason. And the more you're just more yourself, that purpose or reason starts to show itself. It's not the other way around. And for a long time, that's how I was approaching it, was finding it out here, and then I'll be able to see it in here. It's actually the other way around. It starts with here, and then it unfolds here. So, another way to think about this or visualize it is, I've often got the vision or the image from my higher self or my guidance team that the external world is actually a reflection of my inner world. So everything that comes to me externally is showing me something that I am either still holding, need to be released, need to receive. Everything in my external world, this is how I navigate life at this point, to the best of my ability, of course, is seeing that the external is a reflection of my internal programming still. So when we can recognize the programs that are running and not personalize it, not get too attached to it, but we can actually see it, then we can let it go, and we actually intuitively and naturally become more authentic. Another word is sovereign. And there's been a ton of slashing this word, especially in the last couple of years, but it's been distorted. And the true sovereign is not you not caring about other people. That's service to self, which is not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the true sovereign, which is you're so self-sourcing that you are more able to show up to assist others and to actually be of service, because you've been able to source everything that you need from here. And then from that space, you're in community, you're in relationship from that space, not from a space of haven't found it here and reaching outside in order to connect, in order to feel whole, in order to feel like you're part of something. That's what I'm talking about when I say sovereignty. And I feel that's the next stage. That's the next stage of so much of this uprising or this upheaval in our world at this point is based on individuals seeking for sovereignty, individuals seeking to find that space inside. And it's looking like a lot of shadows right now. It's looking like a lot of projection. It's looking like the drama triangle, the villainizing, the victimizing, the saving. It's looking like that. But ultimately, I feel what we're working through collectively is this deconditioning of programs, such deep, deep programs. So as we come into the holidays, many of you are faced with programs because it's family dynamics, it's tradition, right? This is what we do on these certain dates of the calendar year. This is how you show up in this family dynamic. And a lot of times this is a time of year where that comes up for a lot of people, and you're faced with, well, crap. How do I want to show up now? And how can I show up from a space of more authenticity? and not changing out what hat I wear based on who's in front of me. How can I just be fully who I am, no matter who's in front of me? And that's not easy at all. It's not easy. I haven't mastered it yet either. But I feel that that's the next step in our collective awakening. So I would ask you to just really look at that and ponder that for yourself, is what have I not let go of? How have I continued to abandon myself for the sake of these programs? So how have I not shown up fully in my authenticity? And how is that showing up now, basically? And it's just another, like, this is just such a potent time to do such a deep self-inventory of all of this, and really starting to express from a deeper space. So on that note, speaking of authenticity, I recently put an offering out to my community that I've never done before. And it was from a space of joy and playfulness and excitement, and not really attached to an outcome, just wanted to see what would happen. And the response was, it blew me away. And it was, in my opinion, it was spirit showing me, this is what it looks like for you to be more authentic, for you to just be you and be authentic, and don't worry about the rest. The mind wants to think about, oh, what's everybody going to think? And how can I help them? And how can I, meet them where they're at, instead of just be yourself. Just be yourself, and then let the rest fall into place. Your only job is to be yourself. And there's been such a relief that has come with that for me. So I'm wondering, when I think back on Yothera Method and the third phase, for those of you that have gone through it, Yothera Method is basically a transformational journey that assists you in uncovering these programs, and eventually through phase 3 helps you to rewrite this story. It is meant to assist you in finding this authentic self, and then letting that authenticity rise and letting it be seen by your community, letting the chips fall, and you taking full ownership and responsibility for your life and how you're showing up in life. And it would be very interesting to play with in your own life, rewriting this story of who you think you are. And you can do that through going through the Yothera Method if you want to. There's a whole self-study course that you can do, but also just taking some time to write down, the programs you're noticing throughout the day. And as you're faced with certain situations, as the holidays are coming up, as certain triggers show themselves, thank you, Scorpio. Scorpio season is always so good about showing us that. And just taking inventory of, wow, that's still running in there. And then just rewriting it. What do I want it to be? And actually writing it down is helpful because it grounds it into this reality, if you will, instead of it just staying in your head and kind of floating etherically. It's really helpful to write it down. And just, so for example, we're sold a lot of programs. So we're sold the marriage program. We're sold the get your degree program. We're sold the white picket fence and have kids and do all the things. We have so many programs that we are actively in, whether we know it or not. Spirituality, a program. Religion, a program. And so how can we just be who we are and just allow other people, if they want to put you in some kind of a box, or a program because they're still operating in that space, they're still operating in that program, then that's for them to work out. Your only job is to just notice the program, rewrite it, and just continue to consciously work with it. This is truly how we can work with the unconscious mind from a conscious level. You don't have to be under deep hypnosis. You don't even have to, on some level, we can work with this unconscious brain every day if we're willing to look at the patterns and the triggers, because the emotional triggers show us so much. If we're willing to follow it, be with it, and go deeper for the sake of uncovering the program, instead of, projecting or blaming or shaming or whatever that looks like. If we're really just sitting with our stuff, taking full responsibility, it will make itself known to you if you create the space. And that's my hope for everybody this holiday season, or the next couple months, whatever you want to call it. That's my hope for this time. There's just such a deep resonance with this, and wanted to take some time to talk about it. So thanks for listening. Of course, I'd love to hear what's going on with you guys, what's happening for you. If you live in the Boise area, Boise, Idaho, then just know that I'm going to be doing more workshops and online and in person starting in 2022. You can stay on top of all of that by signing up for the newsletter. You can do that on my website, yothera.com. I'll just put everything in the information below, and I would love to connect with you. So if you resonate with this, definitely let me know. Maybe put in the comments, and then I'll take a look. And I'd love to just read what everybody's going through and how authenticity is showing up for you, and all the ways that you're feeling called right now to be authentic in your life. So blessings to you. Thanks for listening. Talk to you later. Bye.